flat back. Work yourself back up to the palms. Bring the big toes together, knees wide apart. Settle into child's pose. Take a few breaths. You can do any arm variation here you enjoy. Just relax, let the hips melt. Take a few soft breaths. Inhale and lead with your chin into your chest. Your belly button comes to the spine and goes straight to cat pose from child's pose. Now sway the back, so the tailbone reaches behind, lift the heart, go to cow pose. Sorry, got my hand in this one. Now tuck the tailbone under. Keep the gaze up till very last. The tailbone's going to tuck under and guide you back down to child's pose. Keep the gaze up, 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 up until the last minute. The last thing that goes down to the ground is the crown of the head. So it's a wave. Inhale yourself up, cat pose. Cow pose. Gaze is up. Tailbone goes back, child's pose. Keep the gaze up, keep it up, 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 till the very last moment when we sit down. Do it 2 more times. Inhaling up, so when you go to cat, the chin is into the chest, let the head, neck, and head hang. And then you go to cow. Now the tailbone leads back to child's pose. Keep the gaze up. Feel that undulation through the spine, and the last thing that goes down is the head. Is that making sense to everybody?
I'm just used to doing an exhale in the cat.
Exhale in the cat, right, yes. That definitely, the breath, if it doesn't work for you, change the breath.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Try it again. So you go up to cat, cow, and then leave the head up. Let the hips start to go back. And do you feel what happens with the spine when the hips go back down to the heels? Yeah. There you go. Mm-hmm. Take a few breaths here. And release. Come back up and come to standing. Stand at the front of your mat. Start into Tadasana, mountain pose. Lift the toes, spread the toes wide apart. Lift the heels, slide the heels back on the mat, creating as wide a foundation as you can. Bend the knees. Draw the thighs up to lengthen the legs, not jamming the knees back. Roll the shoulders. Try to create space along the collarbone in the front body and between the shoulder blades and the back body. Reach the hands down by the thighs. Move yourself back in space to when you feel the thighs wake up. They say hello. Soften the jaw. Soften the gaze. Inhale the arms up overhead. Reach through the fingertips. The gaze can float up. Exhale, forward fold. It's okay, bend the knees, micro bend the knees. Let the head and neck hang. Bring the palms of the hands to the shins or the thighs and create a flat back halfway up. Gaze in front of you. Imagine someone has a piece of string and they're pulling on the crown of the head, creating a tabletop back. Exhale back to your forward fold. Make sure the head and neck relaxes. Bend the knees. Carefully step the hands back, or excuse me, feet back to plank pose. Lower yourself to the ground. Release the toes. Hands go underneath the shoulders. Pin the elbows by the sides. Press the hands, don't go to your maximum, and lift up with the heart. Release back down to the ground. Tuck the toes under, lift the hips, and press back to downward facing dog. Knees can be into the mat if you like. Since this is our first dog, walk your heels, walk your dog, pressing one heel into the ground, bend the opposite knee. You can also shake your head yes and no here. Let go of any tension.
Make sure that the index finger and the thumb are pressing inwards to the ground. The hollow of the palm right up through the wrist is natural. And don't let it shift just to the pinky finger.
Look between the hands. Carefully step your feet forward to your forward fold, Uttanasana. Flat back, halfway up. So hands to the shins, thighs, or the floor for a block. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive. Open the arms wide to the side and up towards the ceiling, reaching up. And exhale, release the arms to the sides. Back through Tadasana. Close the eyes. Take a breath or two. And just connect with going through Surya Namaskar, A series. And release. One point in your personal practice and in your teaching, you want to be cognizant because most of the time we all have a favorite foot that we like to step forward and back with. So one of our teachers in the last training said this, and I loved it. She would tell people which foot to step back first. She'd say, step back to plank position, step back with your right foot, then step the left foot back into plank, and then when she would do it the next time, she'd say step left, then right, because it's too easy. My favorite foot is the right leg to come forward. Well, if you keep bringing the right foot forward first, you're going to, have that unbalanced. So be aware, and that relates to then when we go into adding the lunges. Okay. So Lisa Ann, do you want to teach the exact same things so they can hear how you describe things?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, place your feet with your hip width apart, right next to each other. Let your arms hang easily by your sides. Take a couple moments to just access the breath. Every time you inhale, the body elongates itself, the ribs, the chest expand. The feet sink a little deeper into the ground. As you inspire by the next inhalation that you take, let the arms rise and torso lengthening above you. And as you take the next exhalation, go ahead and let yourself forward. Knees can be soft and bent, bringing all the way down, draping your head. As you come into the next inhalation, place the hands on the shins or just by your feet, lifting up, flatten back, make a table. As you exhale the breath, if there's dishes on that table, all the dishes fall off the table. As you move into the next inhale, step yourself back into downward facing dog. And take a moment in that down dog. Open up the foot, press through all the digits of the fingers, and palm can hollow a bit. Spread the fingers if that's appropriate for you. If it's comfortable to come through plank, come through plank. Otherwise, lower yourself to the ground. As you inhale the next breath, open up your first heart lift. The neck can be an extension. You can lift the arms. And then as you exhale the breath, palms touch, toes tuck, and press back to the lower facing. Take an extra round of breath there. Again, with the right feet on the ball of the foot, lift those heels. Notice all the places that the breath fills itself, the skin opens. Each inhale, and an elastic nature of the exhale. When you inhale, the next breath, look towards the hands. And try and step that left foot forward and then the right foot forward. Again, Uttanasana, bending your straight leg. Exhale out all the breath. And then as you inhale, open it back up again. Into the spine. Let the hands come down the center of the chest. Palms plant, thumbs against the breastbone. And just breathe.
Thank you. So one thing I want to point out in differences with Lisa Ann and myself is, and as you develop your own style, you'll develop what works for you. Many times the first time we go through a sun salutation, we will not have people push up into an up dog or a cobra because our backs aren't warm enough for that yet. So Lisa Ann did the variation to hover the hands. Does that make sense? Did everybody get that, the hovering the hands? The other thing is stepping back to down dog, especially for beginners, is a really great way to help them, because if your hips are low in plank, there's not a lot of space to step a foot back, but if your buttocks is starting to go to the ceiling, you have more space to step back. Does that make sense? So especially also if you have people who would be like overweight and they have a lot of belly, girth that they're dealing with. Watch me from the side. So first of all, if I'm in a forward fold, I'm not going to be able to touch the ground, or I'm going to be like this, trying to touch the ground. I really have to bend my knees, but then if I have belly girth here, where are the knees going to come into, right? So then if I'm trying to step back to plank, do you see what I'm talking about here with this leg? How am I supposed to get this back? But if I step it back and I've got my buttocks to the ceiling, I have more room to step back to downward facing dog. Right? Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. So let's go through it again. Yes.
Hi. Can you show again the way that Lisa Ann had it sort of be easier?
The easier is stepping back from forward fold straight to downward facing dog.
Okay. As opposed to straight in the plank.
As opposed to
Stepping further back.
into plank.
Okay.
Okay, let's go through it again. So come to the front of your mat, starting in Tadasana. Find that strong connection, that foundation with the feet to the mat. Roll the shoulders back, reach the fingertips along the thighs. Close the eyes and just take a breath or two here to connect. To get any feedback the body has from the first two sequences that we did. Soften the lips, relax the cheeks. Inhale, arms up. Reach through the fingertips, lengthening both sides of the torso. Exhale, swan dive, forward, forward fold. Flat back, halfway up. Let it go, back down to the floor. Bend the knees, place the hands on the mat, step the feet back to plank pose. Lower yourself carefully to the ground. Roll the shoulders back, lift the heart, press into the hands, use the strength of the back to open the heart up dog. Exhale, release it back down to the ground, tuck the toes under. Dig the knees into the mat, lift the hips up. You get to come to a little tabletop. To keep the toes tucked under and lift the buttocks up to the ceiling, back to your downward facing dog. Take a few breaths here. Look between the hands. Gently locomote your feet forward. Halfway up. Flat back. Exhale, let it melt forward. Inhale, reverse swan dive. Come all the way up to standing. Reach through the fingertips. And then release the arms to your sides. Close the eyes. Check in with the body.
Keep your arms open. Let the body reach out. And soles and feet. And then exhale and fold your forward. Open the abdomen. Inhale, flat back open. And releasing. Inhale, step back, plank, or downward facing dog. Take an inhale in. And exhale if you come into plank. And inhale if you're rolling into the ground. Inhale, opening up cobra or sphinx. And exhale, release it. Toes tuck under, press into the knees if you need them. Downward facing dog again. Inhale. Step that right foot towards the hands. And you can come through that easy extension of the spine, flat back. Do that. Exhale, fold. Listen. And then inhale, kind of fold, follow. I need to make a bit of a correction. In C-series, there is no flat back. And if you look at the sheet and you're looking at A-series, the top, there is a flat back. You see the neck lifting. B-series, you see the neck lifting. And then C-series, there's no neck lifting. It's just a full forward fold. And I was looking at the B-series. And I think Annalisa was looking at the B-series also. But in C-series, traditionally, there's no lifting of the spine. You can fold over, and then you get to step back and down dog. So I'd like to do one more round.
Well, no, it's not. It's actually not stepping back to down dog. It's step back to the lunge. And so how I remember it with C-series is my lunge is my flat back.
Yeah.
So, because if you watch, if you look at everybody look at their thing. See what she's talking about? Number 4 of A-series. You see how the head looks up? That's a flat back. So is number 8. That's a flat back look up. Now look to the C-series. Do you see number 3 to 4? There's no flat back look up, because if you watch me, your flat back is here.
It's in the lunge.
Right? So that's how I remember it. Is there's no flat back when you step right back to the lunge. You thought you were doing C-series. Yeah, no worries, we got it. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So actually, Lisa Ann, will you teach us next? Can we do the inchworm pose next? Will you teach us inchworm?
And we covered this a little bit the very first, actually the second time we met. From downward facing dog, I tend to rise up on my toes, come through plank, and let my knees come down, and then leave my rear end in the air. Now, I tend to push down through the hips to open up Sphinx pose or cobra, and then release and press it back. Has anybody else had an experience with inchworm?
Well, having it be a flow, but more tricep work, much more strenuous, which is very hard to do when you dip and you come into it.
I think isn't that like an Ashtanga?
I think that is probably a little more of the Ashtanga base. I really try to move it into my legs and keep it out of my neck and my shoulders and arms.
And that's what you feel like. You feel like it's
Get this crunch.
Yeah.
So come into downward facing dog. And everybody's going to have a natural way that they do this pose. And I want you to just take a moment, take that down dog, take a breath, and either move directly into plank or place your knees on the ground from where you're at. One of these things will feel natural to you. So everybody's moving towards plank. Good. Now, let your knees touch the ground before anything else does, with your tush in the air, and lower down. Keep pushing back to those feet, and then slither those hips into the ground, and open up your cobra or your sphinx. Take an inhale in, let that exhale go, fold it back down again, and then when you're ready, press back to the downward facing dog. Let's do it again. And do it one more time. And if you wanted to try it differently, let those knees come down, keep the hips in the air, and do it that way. Otherwise, move right into your plank. Inhale into plank. Let those knees come to the ground. Keep those hips and legs really active. Press the hips into the ground, upward facing, or just simple cobra. There you go. Exhale back, downward facing dog.
So one of the ideas here is the buttocks should be sticking up. Yes.
Yeah.
So everybody do it again where I can confirm that your tush is in the air.
I'm seeing tushes in the air. And is anybody taking too much stress in their arms or neck and shoulders?
Yes, that's tush in the air. Yes. There we go.
Down,
Yes, thank you.
that I'm moving my body too far away from my hands because I want to keep my hands on my shoulders. I don't want to be out of alignment, and I do not push that back up.
When you're slithering down, there is a little bit, to me, there is a sense of where we have to make a little bit of an adjustment. There is a little bit where you have to,
I'm
to me.
adjusting when I come back in my down dog.
Mhm.
I'm doing shadow.
Mhm.
So,
Is there a specific time when you should be putting your feet underneath, from transitioning from the toes to the...
To me, that is such an organic question. 'Cause
Okay.
if I'm trying to keep energy flowing through my legs, when my feet finally release to the ground,
Yeah,
it's almost as if I'm moving that energy right through the mat.
okay.
And so it becomes this, these contractions and releases. Because as soon as I lower down, my feet want to tuck.
Yeah.
And
Just
then
from,
that takes me into that downward facing dog. So again, these are rhythmic things that I allow my breath to kind of dictate, and the
Okay.
energy that's flowing in both, because you are literally sort of pulling out from
Yeah.
the middle of the body to get that cobra going or the sphinx going, as you want to kind of stretch it out
Yeah.
so that these things can turn up, right? And if the feet want to touch the ground, it's almost as if that energy has to kind of, it's like silly putty almost. It's like, and
some styles and some practitioners roll over the feet. Does anybody see
that's in
this?
the Ashtanga tradition. That has to do much more with, you end up rolling up. Do you see?
You kind of roll your...
Yeah, you roll
Okay.
over your, do you see how she's rolling on the tops of her toes?
And that is
Instead of versus like placing
placing.
the foot or untucking one and then the other, right? They're actually rolling, like she was showing you, rolling over the toes.
Over the foot.
Which is it's a great stretch on your feet. It helps with building toe strength, ankle strength. It keeps the foot supple. There's a lot of benefits to doing that. It can be pretty uncomfortable though. It can
I
help.
was alternate.
You do both?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do both.
Yeah, just as I slowly move myself through tiny bows, upper body bows, to putting pressure into my arms and my forearms, I do the same thing with my feet, knees, and ankles. Is I let them help tell me how they want to extend themselves. Because I rolled over my foot this time and that actually felt okay, but my inclination is not to do this. That is not my inclination. This actually feels fine. But to go through plank, roll it down and not let my thighs touch, that's always been really tough for me, and it's always put a great deal of strain inside my neck and my shoulders. And as many corrections as one can instill, it doesn't make it go away.
I don't think it's
care.
wrong or right
Yeah.
either way.
Yeah.
The classical that we've learned
Yeah.
is stay on our toes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we don't have to do this.
Right.
And they're saying this is more of a Western adaptation.
Yeah, so you should try both. And
I just,
Well,
like
personally-
teaching, if you have to probably, if there's a bunch of different people in the class doing it differently, it's kind of like, you're down.
The younger the
Thing, or-
person, the more flexible the toes. If you have young people under 20, under 16, definitely, see if you can place them through those paces of rolling over their foot, because it's going to keep that mobility in the long run. But the energy still has to be extending out through the lens. It can't just happen in the foot and the ankle. There has to
Yeah,
be
you don't want to
that.
concentrate on just.
Yeah, you want to see
Yeah.
all the energy flow. So that's personally I consider it advanced to be rolling over the foot.
Okay.
I really do consider it advanced, but I really wouldn't make a person who's been standing on their feet for 40 years try and roll over
in
the
high
top
heel
of their foot.
shoes,
On
especially.
high heel shoes. High heel shoes actually works okay. They can sometimes
they
they
can
can
use
roll
that
over it.
pointed.
Right, and it's discerning what that person can withstand. It's like we all know, yoga is stress, but how much do you want to give each person in the room? It's not about, it's reminding them that this person has that mobility in their foot, and the other person's like, no, you keep your energy in the ball of your foot, because that's going to actually strengthen their foot over the long run. Because for somebody to do this, it's going to help them get to that point over time to be able to roll over the top of their foot, because these toes are now going to be strong enough to withstand something like that.
Should we demonstrate, please? Will you do down dog? Por favor, everybody watch. Okay. Now come to plank pose. Okay. Now lower your knees to the ground. Keep the buttocks up and go to inchworm. Okay, pause there. Look how tight her elbows are to her side. Okay. Now release, come back, go through your up dog or hover your hands, whatever you want. Elbows are tucked in, and then press back to down dog. Thank you. Now we're going to do the exact same thing again. Go plank, lower the knees down. Now this time let your elbows splay to the sides. Okay? You see the difference?
But there's stress on the outside of the palm.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I want everybody to try it, and I want you to do both. I want you to have the elbows in tight. Did you see how tight they were to the side? In tight as you lower yourself down, and then I want you to do it again, and I want you to splay the elbows out and not worry about having them in tight.
And then we're going to do exactly the same thing with our knees, because the knees are the next place that bear the brunt of the body's weight.
Okay, so down dog, go to your plank, drop your knees to the mat, squeeze the elbows into the side, squeeze, 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 squeeze as you come through inchworm. Yes, 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 everybody's got it. Do your up dog, and then press back to your down dog. Now you're going to do exact same thing again, but you're going to let the elbows splay to the side. So you're going to go plank, drop the knees, let the elbows come out. Yeah. Yes, 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 yes.
Which may need an adjustment. You can actually do it if you
And
adjust
up
your
dog.
hands.
And then go back to your down dog.
And that's why you see a lot of people do their push-ups. They're so used to doing.
Elbows out.
Now,
Pectoral.
one of the things I want to point out to you is you have broad hips, but your knees stay together. And that's why I want you to try the same movement,
with my.
but make your knees a little further apart.
Okay, so does everybody understand what Lisa Ann wants you to do next? You're going to go to down dog. You're going to step your feet apart.
A little bit more than what you might be used to.
Yeah. Go to plank. Drop your knees to the mat. Now go through your inchworm position.
Yeah.
Now press to your up dog and your
So
down
that didn't
dog.
look as stressful in your shoulders to me.
And then down dog, and then bring your big toes together and go through with literally
so
your big
used to
toes and
having
your
my feet
thighs joined together. So now go plank.
Ankle bones stay close.
Drop your knees down. Go through your inchworm. Up dog, try to keep the thighs and the big toes together, and then go back to down dog. And release. What do you think?
Put the child's pose.
Yes.
Yes, that, you didn't look so stressed out going down on your shoulders. Keeping the knees a little bit.
You know what I remember.
Two killer workouts this week.
And I'm gonna watch one other thing that she's doing. This hand pulled up when she came through the plank, through to the upward facing dog, that the thumb, it kind of lifted up like it was cupping the ground there. And if it took the stress out of her hands,
But I always want to
Put your, yeah.
And so these are little things to look at, what people's bodies do if they're trying to make their body fit into a teeny tiny space. These kinds of things are going to happen. The palm is going to want to contract even more because there's another part of the arm that is not free to do what it wants to do.
So here's what I want to know. Do you like the elbows in, elbows out, knees together, knees apart?
Goes in, legs apart.
All.
the guys, they have that strong
I was
body.
just
You
gonna
do
say.
those wider arm push-ups, and usually elbows out for the pectoral.
Yeah, or I put my hands out this way even. Just do this right here.
Yeah.
Elbows in and legs apart.
Elbows in and legs apart.
Elbows in, legs close or apart. Either way. Always
But it's to be aware of. And if someone has a lot of body girth, it's going to be hard to bring the elbows in at the sides. You know what I mean? There could be flesh that's getting in the way with where the arms are.
But we shouldn't encourage them to spread their arms apart, should we?
This is that funny thing is I wouldn't go out here because that is not going to create that line.
And you're going to get them.
Yeah, it's going to be tough on the neck, but you can make subtle adjustments. Once you come through, you can make a subtle adjustment there, especially if you want to keep it out of your neck.
Yeah.
You can make a subtle widening of the arms. It's not the wrong thing to do because the way the shoulder works sort of will necessitate it.
And it's about building strength and
Yeah.
building flexibility.
Yeah.
It's not about, oh, all of a sudden everybody's going to have their elbows in at their sides, you know, because this might be where I might be here, but maybe I can over time work at bringing, because it is a muscle to squeeze the arms together, right? So that muscle might have to be built. So I have taught classes where I say squeeze your upper arms into the torso, and people can't do it, right?
And I mean, if you can, just sit for a moment and just pull your elbows into the side of your body, and then, you know, I'm not moving my neck or anything, but I'm activating those upper back muscles to contract a little bit. The neck's staying pretty much the same. But it definitely, it's like, I can't make my elbows fit in, this constricts my shoulders range of motion. If I try to pull my elbows all the way into the side of my body, it's really constricting for me. I can feel how the shoulder just seizes to hold this position. So if I'm trying to bend my elbows and keep those shoulders immobile, then there's a lack of range of motion there. It's just that it's the shape of my arm. It's creating that. And again, possibly if I had started earlier, I could change the shape of my bones. There are theories that you can change the shape of the bone, but once it's articulating and stuff, you know, once you've had 10 or 15 or 20 years of articulation, the bone is pretty much going to be the shape that it is, but you can help correct movements from side to side and even out the power and the strength of the muscle tone and how it articulates those bones.
Thank you. So let's go back to, I want to do Lisa Ann, I'm going to have you teach C series next, but let's first do A series. So everybody come to the front of their mat, because we went through inchworm, so we're ready for that. But I'm going to have everybody do A series, but you'll do C series next. Okay, so everybody, you're going to tell Lisa Ann and I what poses we're doing in the sequence. You're going to tell us what pose to do. So through the A series. You do it too with us. Everybody at once. So what do we do first? Everybody? Thank you. Okay. What next? Everybody's saying it
Inhale,
too.
arms up.
What next?
Forward fold.
Yes, thank you.
Exhale, forward fold.
Just practice saying it. Even if somebody else is saying it before you, you still say it. Where are we headed? What am I supposed to do?
Inhaling and exhaling twice here.
I did exhale to down dog. Okay.
Now what do I do?
Step or jump your feet
forward. Nice. I like the projection.
Halfway up.
Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reverse one side up.
Yeah? Everybody get the idea?
So we're doing Arda on both.
It doesn't show the halfway up.
This one is this is the head is up. Those are the halfway ups.
Okay.
The little stick figure is a little
So when after down dog,
the flat back,
flat back and then.
forward fold.
It's been up for debate, I think, for quite a long time. Is it flat back or is it lean back? You know, it's definitely been a topic of discussion for a long time. I think the older the person is, the harder it is to do lift your neck because it just jams so much. So this is a much better version. Make a table.
So they're supposed to go from down dog to upright?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
And then Uttanasana and then.
I teach it forward fold and then flat back.
Okay.
We're not
Yeah,
gonna
I heard
we're not gonna critique you with that. If you find a way that works for you, what I found for me, I'm just speaking, personally, is that when you're in down dog, and then you're stepping forward, and I'm trying to teach a direction, like they're coming through Uttanasana first.
Right.
You can't, okay, down dog, now try to step through and look up at the same time. It doesn't work that way. So I think you have to go through Uttanasana even if it's not marked. So for my students, I tell them, step forward Uttanasana, flat back, look up. Exhale, forward fold, inhale, all the way up. Because you have to go through it. I don't think, try it. Can anybody go from down dog to a flat back
And
without going through Uttanasana?
that is part of the Ashtanga practice. That is.
Do you see what I'm saying? Your back has to curve for you to step forward.
But the forward motion,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and see, this is that other thing is if you're keeping the knees bent during this process, to actually step forward and get that flat back might be a little easier. Because either you're putting the curve in your back or you're putting the curve into a joint that exists. And then you can fold forward. So it's possible, but again, practice both of them. See which one actually allows you the spaciousness to take the breath and to exhale the breath.
With straight legs, me stepping forward, there's no, I have to go through the forward fold.
What about the hop?
It's,
Within
Yeah, there you
inhale here.
Right.
Yeah.
so the hop definitely changes it. Hopping forward and back changes it
Hopping
for sure.
forward, because what you're doing on the hop forward is you're exhaling when you hop forward, inhaling when you make that flat back, and then forward folding and exhaling again. And there's a whole dance to the hop.
So Lisa Ann, will you do C, please? So this is the this is a lunge back instead of the flat back look up. So there's no flat back look up. And this one goes through the inchworm position, right?
Or Ashta Namaskar, exhale. Ashtanga Namaskar. That's actually what it's called. It's Ashtanga. It's the 8 limbs, and actually, this is it kind of interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
and then
8,
the crown
and
of
the
the
crown of the head is 8, and that's Ashtanga is the 8.
Do you see when you do the inchworm? If you count the
There are 8
ankles,
limbs connecting to the ground there.
You know, I was just gonna say, every time I've ever done that in a class, the way that they describe it is just knees, chest, chin.
Knees,
Yeah.
chest, chin.
that's a
Yeah.
very common description.
And there's knees, chest, chin, and there's knees, chest, nose. Because you don't have to do it with the chin in this position. You can do it with your nose touching the ground too, to keep the softness in the neck. And we'll do it both ways.
Come to the front of your mat.
Come up to the front. Plant your feet into the ground, let your arms drop by your sides. Take a breath in, let the arms roll open so the palms face the front of the room here. Let yourself take a little inhale in and exhale out. Feel the spine extending itself from the top of the head. If there's a little string there, as you move into the next breath, arms stay rotating over and up and rise. And the torso extend. Belly buttons. And then exhale, folding forward. Taking that forward, take an extra breath. You're going to be stepping that right foot back behind you. The knee can be on the ground or off the ground. The hands can stay on the ground, or you can just bring them up to your hips, what you can be. Inhale here, exhale, fold. You're going to move right back to plank. Hold that breath for a moment. As you exhale, let the knees, chest, and chin touch the ground. Inhale, full breath. Small start. Exhale, fold. Inhale, pressing into the hands and feet. Exhale, back into downward facing dog. Extra breath there. Looking up to the hands, step that right foot up in between your hands. Let that knee drop or not. Inhale, hands to the hips, switching the knee. Try to take an inhale in here. As you exhale, folding forward, but you're going to step that left foot up to lift the right. Exhale, all the way over the right. Inhale, reverse your swan dive. Open, extend the torso all the way to the tips of the toes, do fingers. Exhale, hands back down to the heart. I'm going to do this one more time. Inhale when you're ready, unfold it. Exhale, fold it. Extra breath in the forward fold. The left foot is going to step back first. Knee to the ground. Opening. Inhale. Exhale, folding. Back to plank. Inhale, hold that breath. When you're ready to exhale, knees, chest, chin.